Hey there, everyone, and thanks for joining us for Making Sales Social Live, coming to you as always from the Social Sales Link virtual studios. I'm Bob Woods, Stan Robinson Jr., and Bryn Tillman are joining us as well. Sup, guys? How
Hey,
you?
now I'm hearing some fuzz in the background. I don't know if that's on my end or yours or
I'm not hearing anything. So, are you hearing it?
okay.
I'm not hearing fuzz.
Okay. Well, let's keep going then.
Yeah, it might be. It might be just you, which would be good because hopefully no one else is hearing it too.
All right.
So let's do this. So the only thing that's constant on LinkedIn is change. It's a cliche, but there are reasons why things become cliche, right? And that's definitely one of them. So when it comes to crafting thought leadership posts, it's changed a little bit now because of the new 360 brew, what I call relevance engine, just because nobody knows what the heck to really call it. So I have hung a name on it, and hopefully everyone on the planet will agree with me and adopt it as well. So today, though, what we're going to talk about, and you'll discover, is how to craft those thought leadership posts so that you'll build, thought leadership, which is very important, especially nowadays on LinkedIn. Right, guys?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, um, people probably have a little bit of confusion on the content that's going to work on LinkedIn today. And by the way, not everything has to be thought leadership,
Right.
right? You can have content that's events. You can have content that focuses on a new employee hire. Like there's other content that we can have, but the key of what we're going to talk about today is how are we creating that thought leadership that creates uh, ultimately a reputation of being a subject matter expert and being the person that someone will come to based on your topic or that you're influencing.
Yeah. Yeah. So just being aware of how 360 Brew or the relevance engine is working now, so you can be intentional about the content that you're creating when you want to demonstrate your thought leadership and your expertise. So we're here to help you know what to do and understand what to do when you want to do that more effectively.
Yeah, and I think one thing to really quickly keep in mind is that thought relevance content piece is definitely a big part of what we're going to be talking about. But just and we're not going to get into this other stuff today. But just keep in mind that your profile and your engagement and things like that, all of that also gets, God forgive me for saying this, brewed into the 360 brew. And yeah, I know it's really bad,
Well,
but
it's
it's
not,
still
you know what? It's not really bad because that is what they're hoping for, right?
yeah,
That
right.
that's the point, right? The 360 brew is that everything is part of that cup of coffee.
Yeah. Oh my
Yes.
God.
Yeah.
So spike it so spike that coffee with all of the caffeine you can, and we're going to teach you how to do part of that today, and I will never say that in a sentence again. So with that, there are some certain things that you could do to really boost that thought leadership piece. So the first thing is going to be articulating your content promise. So, what can people count on you to help them think about, understand, do better, things like that? That's your content promise. So, if someone follows you, connects with you, sees your post in the feed, they should have a good sense of what kind of value they're going to likely get from you, which is kind of a big nail to hang this all on, but that's what it's ultimately all about.
Yeah, I mean, I love this content promise, right? We talk a lot about what is the customer promise. What are we out there, ideally messaging so that our clients clearly know exactly what it is that we can help them solve. The content promise is very similar, right? Your content promise is when your connection or someone reads or really consumes your content. It could be video. There's a lot that it could be. But even if it's text, right? When someone actually consumes that content, what are they going to get from it? And this promise is critical before we do anything else. So, for example, because what am I promising? Am I going to promise a tip that you can implement? Am I going to promise a different way to look at a problem? Am I, at the ultimate goal of this content promise is I see immediately what this content is called or the topic. And I believe that when I have completed consuming this content, I will have gotten what I expected. I will have received the content in a way that's meaningful to me based on what I believed this would be. Now, there is a content promise theme that can go out throughout all of your social selling thought leadership. So for us, we almost never put out anything that doesn't have a tactical tip. Right? You can almost always, we can almost always guarantee that if you watch a video, you're here on a live stream, you read a post, that if it is meant to be thought leadership, that thought leadership is actionable, right? It's usually not just what we're thinking about or a concept, but it's literally something that you can apply in your business today that can have an impact. That is typically what you can expect, and that is our content promise. That's my thoughts on that.
Yes, and just to contrast that, other content producers may be producing content around news or industry trends, which won't be as tactical, and people don't expect to get actionable advice. They're looking for information on trends, how to think about things that are going on in the industry, and so forth.
Yeah, a perfect example of that is like a Richard Vanderblom. His content is what's happening inside the algorithm, what's changing inside of LinkedIn, not necessarily tactically what to do today, but it's a strategic way to think about what's new. And so we know that whenever we consume something that's Richard's, we are going to take away a new thought process around the algorithm. Right. There are other folks that you might follow, to Stan's point. Like, I follow a lot of people on Substack that talk about, what's happening in the news. So I know that if I click through, I'm going to hear kind of what's gone on today in the government, or what's gone on today. You might follow someone for stock, what's going on in the stock market. Right. So content and thought leadership, to Stan's point, is built around a theme, right? Our content promise is a theme that is consistent, that I know every time I click through to that thought leader around content, I have an expectation of what I'm going to take away from that.
Yeah, definitely. So before we moved on to number 2, I am going to provide like a real quick 360 brew angle for each of these very specific ones, because because that's what more and more people are starting to talk about, even though LinkedIn doesn't really talk a lot about it. So it's up to people more along our lines to actually do that. So if LinkedIn's relevance engine is trying to understand who you are relevant to, a clear content promise helps create consistency, because, as we all know, and we've said this for years, random acts of content make it harder for LinkedIn and your audience to connect the dots. So when you get into that lane, that specific lane, as much as you're able to, 360 Brew will actually pick up on that. So bad things are, if your post could have been written by almost anyone in your industry, or if you're, posting about sales leadership one week and then the next week mindset and company culture and things like that, it doesn't really give 360 Brew a good way to really latch into what you are doing for your content promise. So just keep that in mind as well.
I love that tip. I think that's so important. And this is where we have to be careful. And I'll say where I've been ultra careful is in resharing other people's content.
Yes.
So I will still potentially like or engage on something, but if it does not lead back to something in sales or social selling, I'm very careful now because I don't want to confuse the relevance engine.
Yes. Yes. 2 converts. I'm well on my way. Okay. So the second thing is you really need to define your public voice and tone, because it's not just about what you say, it's how you say it. So public voice should feel like, you're not fake polished, you're not corporate, you're not artificially provocative, clear, human type of thing. And I'm actually writing an article for my LinkedIn newsletter about just that will come out tomorrow as well, just because there's been a lot of talk and a lot of articles being written lately about AI hatred and things like that, and how it's going negative. And that's another story for another time, obviously. But this is all kind of working together, which is why you really need to be yourself. Even if you're using AI to help you, you need to be yourself in anything and everything that you do, not just in LinkedIn, but anything that goes out to anyone.
Yeah, I love that. And coming up with your personalized voice is an interesting exercise in and of itself. Ultimately, you are really going to show up potentially as friendly or consultative or educational. Your tone could be clever and witty or professorial, right? You want to really define how you sound. And some of what you can do is take some transcripts from your client conversations or internal meetings and ask AI to help define your natural voice, right? Based on those transcripts. And that can help you in really defining what your voice, your tone should or can be, so that when they read what you write, it's aligned with what they meet. And that can be really important. There is probably also a little company slant. So if your company has a specific voice, you could do the same thing. You can ask, just based on the website, what the company voice is. And you can actually bring that in to AI. So you have your transcripts and then the website link, and say, I'd like to build out my personal voice and how my content will show up, the tone, the tempo, and I want to make sure that it aligns with the company voice based on the website. And so that's a tactical thing that you can go do inside of AI to really define who you are. These definitions, like what you get from that, if you're using something like Claude, you can add it to Claude skills or memory. You can add it to your custom instructions in ChatGPT. Gemini doesn't quite have that ability yet, but many others do. I personally think Claude does the best at this, but you can ultimately teach it to ensure that it sounds like you. One other thing I would throw in is humanize it. Like, make sure your voice, just say, make sure that everything that I write sounds like me as a human, that you are not using traditional AI, not this, but that, segmented sentences. And something that I heard Bob say that I want to reiterate, because I think it's brilliant, is engineered provocativeness. I don't know exactly how you said it, but ultimately, provocative is great, but provocative in a way that draws someone in authentically. You don't want it. Here's a good thing. Something that we're going to actually teach in our content week this week is where in the past, something like the ultimate guide to would have done exceptionally well is now considered like an engineered provocative statement. It's overused because now AI is using that when creating titles. So being aware of that over engineering is really important. So Bob, I love that you brought that up. That aligns completely with where thought leadership needs to land today.
And before we get the stance thing, only because it loops in perfectly with what Bryn just said. When in doubt, read it out loud. So in other words,
Another mic drop moment today from our friend Bob Woods with all his things.
Just en fuego today. So in other words, whenever you're taking content over from AI and you're doing your edits and reframing and everything, just read it out loud. If it sounds like it's coming from a marketing piece, guess what? You're going to sound like a marketing piece. Read it out loud. If it doesn't sound like you to your own ear, then rewrite it. Sorry, Stan. That's all I wanted to say.
No, that's not. I love it. So when in doubt, read it out.
Loud.
I'll try.
Read it out. Loud.
Yes. The loud is almost silent at the end. Yep. So I totally agree on the authenticity part. You know, we can talk, record transcripts, but we may not be very good at describing our voice. And that's where AI can help.
Any tips from you, Stan, if you were to put that content, your transcripts into AI, that you might ask AI to extract that voice?
Good question. I might give it some context just in terms of how I'm going to be using the output, in the sense of I'm going to be writing posts where I will want you to help me write. Have a look at this transcript and describe my voice in such a way that I can use it to give you instructions.
Yep.
That's good.
Ask it to analyze. Don't tell it to just, learn it or whatever. You want to know what it has learned about you before it implements it. I think that's probably the big thing there.
Yeah, that's great. I love it. All right. What's next, Bob?
Numero tres. Listen to what your clients are asking for, engaging with, interested in, like that type of stuff, because something, you don't know it all. So you really have to listen to your clients, your prospects, referral partners, and even just your community in general. What are they telling you? Not only what to post about, but just what's going on and what's happening. In fact, that's something that we do during our coaching calls sometimes, is just ask people what are they seeing out there, what's happening, what's going on, because you're just one person. You really need to find out what's happening to, and you do it through questions, and if you're more in like sales mode or whatever, through objections, through comments, frustrations. Why are they hesitating to buy? More often than not, it may not be specifically about you and your product. It may be something else completely different, and how they get confused and things like that. So listen, I think is probably just the best way to put that there.
Stan, you want to add before I go on my little rant on this?
just that you can use LinkedIn to help you listen. We always talk about bookmarking influencers whose content you want to keep up with. So have a look at their content, what they're talking about, and the comments from people, because that will give you an even deeper insight into those topics.
Yep.
I love that. All right. So here's the biggest problem I see salespeople making. They are sharing content they want their prospects and clients to know versus content their prospects and clients want to consume. We have to identify what are they actually searching. And so one of the things we're going to teach in Content Week, and it's top of our mind because it's this week. Stay tuned, guys, because we're going to do these a lot. But so if you're in replay, I'm sure there will be another content week up there somewhere at socialsaleslink.com/events, but we're going to really dive into what are people Googling? What are people asking ChatGPT and Claude and Perplexity? What are they in there asking? And we're going to use a tool called Answer the Public to really dive down and identify what people are putting into their search. That's the key. If you really want to identify content that people are interested in, find out what they're searching. I say that's the key. What Bob and Stan are talking about is so critical. That's real time. What are your actual clients asking for? What are your actual prospects talking about? Bob mentioned objections. What are the real objections you're hearing on a daily basis? But thought leadership is only good if people find it and consume it. Mm-hmm. So part of it, we're talking about what kind of content is really important to put out there. But part of it is also when people are looking for content that you can help them with, are you findable? Right? And so that is so important. So not only are we doing the things that Bob and Stan talked about around how do we identify the right content that they're asking for, but also how are they asking for it, and start to name it based on how they're actually searching.
Yeah. And my quick little 360 brew angle on this has to do more specifically with posts. So LinkedIn posts, or you can apply this in a lot of different areas too, but this is specifically for LinkedIn posts. So posts that address the audience's actual problems directly are more likely to create relevance and to get people to click on that all important see more part, so they'll be able to read more. So here's the thing though, the first few lines of your post matter because they help signal who the post is for and why that person should care. So once upon a time, a line like, I've been thinking a lot about thought leadership lately, that would have worked. Nowadays though, it's more along the lines of your LinkedIn post may not be working because your audience still doesn't know, well, what you want to be known for. So that second version speaks directly to the problem. You've really got to get that right up top so that 360 Brew really catches that and goes, this is something that this person's talking about. I'm going to push this wider to the audience that they already want to attract anyhow.
I love that. That kind of brings us back to our AWARE framework, right?
Yep.
So, so the first one is, attract and resonate. And I think, that's where that natural provocative line needs to be, right?
Yeah.
Because we do want provocative. We just don't want it to be fake. And it also, we have to make sure we deliver on that promise in the content, right?
Yes.
So that's A, W, wonder. You want to create enough curiosity in that first line, as Bob just did, to get you to want to click see more and keep reading, right?
Yep.
Like that's really important. So I love that. The next A is add value. So this is where you're delivering on that promise, the one tip, the one concept. Now, for example, if it's breaking news, fireworks explode in Atlanta, Georgia, right? Like, I don't know, like that's, now we've got to talk about, I'm just trying to get, breaking, I wanted to be non-political breaking news. So anyway, but so we have, but now we have to talk about that, right? So the wonder, fireworks come out of nowhere, like, oh, wow, let me see. Now it's the meat, right? On the corner of Main and 72nd, on the third floor of XYZ, the fireworks manufacturer, whatever, had a 4th of July show today, right? And so that's the meat of the post, right? That is the adding value. Then we want to reframe. So in this case, I'm not sure how to reframe, but reframe the way you think of something. So it might be, the reframe might be if you're building a fireworks manufacturing plant, don't put solar panels in the windows. right? Now you got to reframe the way that you're looking at that, right? Ultimately. And then you want to create engagement. How do we move them from lurker to engager? So are we creating they want to connect with you, they want to talk to you, or a simple like or a comment? But I just want to really talk about all those things that we're talked about. We do have this aware framework that when you write it that way, you actually create that thought leadership. I'm glad you did that, Bob. That was a good giggle.
I haven't laughed like that since I was a young child. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. So, did I do my 360 brew for that one? I don't even remember.
I don't think so, but if you did, let's do it again.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I did do it actually.
Okay, so, well then let's move on.
So let's move on. So next one is capture your genius in a transcript. And we've already talked about this to a certain extent, so I don't know exactly how much more we really want to nail here. But
I would say make it a habit.
Yeah. That's yeah.
So you can talk about that. Make it a habit.
Yeah, make it a habit. I mean, because especially when you're using AI for it, the more AI has to train on, the better that it's going to get closer and closer to your voice. So throw as much at it as you can. So speaking of AI, our last one is taking all of this stuff to AI by using our Crispy framework. So AI shouldn't replace your thinking. It doesn't think. It should help package your thinking, though. And Crispy gives AI enough direction to create something that sounds more like you, serves the right audience, especially avoids generic output. So, this is when you're really using AI as a tool. That's like another thing that I'm writing about, which is why this is all like really top of mind for me. AI is not the be all end all. It's a tool. It's like Photoshop. It's like CAD software. It's like video editing. It's not a scary thing. It's another tool to hang on your tool belt. And that's it, because it can help structure, sharpen, repurpose, and edit, but it ain't responsible for your perspective. It ain't responsible for thinking for you.
Perfect.
Well said. Yep, Brent, I was going to let you talk about the Crispy prompt and how to use it, because one of the things about the reasoning models these days, we were talking about this in coaching, is you can essentially tell it what you want or have it write the prompts for you these days.
Yeah, I'm going to hand it to Bob, since he was the original Crisp person, and then as a team we made it Crispy. So Bob, I'm going to give you the honors of walking through the Crispy prompt and how they can take these transcripts and these concepts and these the questions that people are asking on Google and answer the public. And
Yeah, so boy, it's actually been a while since I've.
Oh, then I can do it if you want.
Why don't you go ahead? Just because
okay.
Yeah.
All right, that's fine. I'm thrilled because I do this 7 times a day. I write Crispy prompts like most people drink water. So, so the first thing we want to do is we want to make sure we've got that the context, right? So your context is, I want to write a 500-word LinkedIn post or a 2,000-word LinkedIn article, right? And what is that going to look like? And actually, it really doesn't even have to be the words there. I want to write a LinkedIn article. I want to write a LinkedIn post. It's, this is what I'd like to get out of this. Then we have role. Who do we want AI to be? Ultimately, we want AI to be an expert at whatever it is. So I wrote these for one of our clients, and they were an advertising expert that understood the nuances of content that not only attracts people, but also converts, right? So, and we used their company, which is an advertising firm, And we actually put in the website into that role, right? You are an expert from this website. Really actually did a lot of wonderful things that came out of that. Then we want inspiration. I typically, with inspiration, will say, what do we want people to feel at the end of this, or think at the end of this, right? What is our goal? I want this to convert and have them really excited about downloading an ebook, or have them really excited about coming to an event, or have them just fall in love with our brand and want to follow our content, whatever we want. Like, what is the feeling that they're so excited about what they just learned that they want to do more? Next is scope. And this is where I actually will go back to 500 characters, 2,000 words. I want bullet points. If we're doing a newsletter, here are the 5 sections that I want to get out of this and what that looks like. So the scope are the actual details of what we want the output to look like. And then what are the questions we want AI to ask us one at a time? So you may have 5 to 7 questions. Often when we are doing like a pre-call planning or a discovery, we have very specific questions that we want to be asked. So we add those into the U and we say, please ask us one at a time. So as you're building out your prompts for your content, consider putting it into a crispy format. And that may actually have a really good impact on the outcome there.
And just so everyone knows, in the LinkedIn, I do have, because we put out a book last year on the Crispy framework called Prompt Writing Made Easy, because it is made easy with Crispy. So it all goes together. There's a book at Amazon that you can purchase, bestseller.
I don't even have my copy here. Usually I have it hanging around.
Do we have it?
I do. It's in my little bookshelf. There it is. Woo!
And as you could tell, my background is actually real. It's not fake, because I just grabbed the book from it. Either that or I have Marvel level CG going on.
It is not an engineered background.
Yes, exactly. So with that, I think we're going to go ahead and dip out here. So thanks for joining us here on Making Sales Social Live. We are here live every week, Mondays at 12:30 p.m. Eastern time in the US. So put a block on your calendar for us. That would definitely help our egos here. If you're listening to this as a recording on our podcast and you haven't subscribed already, you should just go ahead and do it. Also, likes and comments are always great as well. Besides these LinkedIn Live episodes, we also interview leaders and experts in sales, marketing, business, and many more areas, so you can catch those as well. So when you are out and about this week and every week, be sure to make your sales
social. Oh, sorry, Stan.
No.
Should we do it again? One more time. 1, 2, 3.